Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the first online meeting of our contrastive analysis course. I'm very happy to see so many of you here on this system. Now, just a few tracks before we begin. Could you all hear me well? If you can hear me, please type yes into the chat window. Okay. So good, great, very good, nice. Okay, good. So the sound is great. Now, there are a few setting ups that I want you to be familiar with before we work together on this platform. Um, Now, if you go to the top of the screen, you should see an icon that says My Mood, and these are some of the ways that you can show me how you are catching up. Now, I want everybody to select I'm fine. If you can hear me well and you can see the screen, okay. So select I'm fine to show me that you are okay. Yeah. You see it there? Yeah, go to My Mood at the top of your screen and then select I'm fine. Yeah, it's on the top of the green though. There are several symbols there. Great. I'm fine. Raise hand. Yes, no. Speed up, slow down. Okay. So during our meeting, if you want to, because I have put our meeting into the listen only mode so that you do not hear echo noises and we have better connections. I will try to put my webcam on most of the time so that we have better interactions. But when the internet connection is not very good, I may need to turn off my webcam. All right. Now, the first thing I wanted to do is to go into the M-Learning system and track your attendance. Okay, so please log into our M-Learning course, and there is an attendance track activity there. I'm sure that you are now familiar with it. Right, so please go to the bottom of topic 3, contrasting linguistic contributions, and there is a link there. Are you on time for our online meeting today? Please click on the link. Now you have 3 minutes to do this, so be fast. Yes, let me say this again. Everybody, I want you to start tracking attendance. So please log into our M-Learning system and click on the attendance track. Yeah, it's at the bottom of topic 3. If you do not see the link, you may need to refresh the page. Okay, I have seen 12 people in the attendance track. Great. You're not familiar with how we do the attendance track. 22. Good. Look like we have about 40 people online at the moment. So I give you 1 or 2 more minutes to do it. Okay. There are 43 people online right now. Good. So 35 people taking attendance track already. Very nice. Right. As I have already said in the email sent to you, we are going to talk about the contributions of contrastive linguistics to general linguistics and to the other fields of linguistics in our discussion today. And because this is the the meeting is in the online mode, so there are gonna be several hands-on activities in which I need you to use our M learning system or Google. Right. So we're gonna talk about machine translation, testing and evaluation, language teaching, error analysis, general linguistics, and how these areas of studies benefit from the studies of contrastive linguistics that we are working on. Now, before we start, um, the first activity I wanted to do is to go back to our M learning system, and there is an activity right at the top on unit key concepts. Okay. Now this is a glossary activity, so I want everybody to spend about 5 minutes browsing through these concepts and put in 1 or 2 entries explain these key concepts. Okay, is it clear, everybody? Now, let me say this again. Please go into topic 3 of our learning system and do the glossary activities. So I want you to explore the key concepts before we start. Great. Thank you for the feedback. So you need to, keep giving me feedbacks about whether you can follow me or not. So I will type the task here again. Go to the key content, work on an activity in 5 minutes. All right, that's it. Okay, so I now have my hand freeze with the microphone attached. Okay. Let's see how's things going. If your sound system is not very good, you cannot hear me very well, don't worry because the meeting is recorded. You have the chance to see our whole meeting again. Great. So I have seen several entries for error analysis, interlanguage. Okay. Now these are the key concepts we are going to see again in our discussion today. Very useful. Now we have 1 more minute. So let me see how many entries are now in our glossary. Okay, great. All right, quite a lot already. Thank you, everybody. Now, so let's go back to our animating platform. Thank you. Let's get back to the slide. Now, so in the lecture today, we're gonna talk about contributions of contrasting linguistics to machine translation, testing, evaluation, language teaching, error analysis, and the general linguistics. We'll go back to the key concepts that you have already explored in the glossary activity. Right, now, first thing first about general linguistics. You see, the aim of general linguistics is to find out language universals and also language Unix. Those are the key points that we discussed in the last lecture about the history of contrastive linguistics. Now, so in order to find out the Unix and the universals of language, general linguistics need to draw from linguistic data gathered by comparing, contrasting different language pairs. So the first contributions of contrastive linguistics is that it provides linguistic data and it adds power to the general linguistic principles. It verifies those principles, and thanks to um, the studies of language pairs from contrastive linguistics, we can have a better views of how languages are different, and we can avoid what we often refer to as Eurocentrism or Eurocentric views. In a later activity, we will explore this concept a little bit. But basically, I have already explained to you in the last lecture about how, for example, Vietnamese was heavily influenced by the Eurocentric grammar system. Now, the two key figures that have been very successful with descriptive linguistics and trying to stay away from Eurocentric views are Leonard Bloomfield and Cao Xuân Hào. Now, Bloomfield claims that any universal discovery should be based on specific language study, based on studying specific language rather than using a linguistic system that already exists to describe it. Now, Professor Cao Xuân Hào have the same view in his famous publications in 1998. It's about the grammar and the linguistic systems of Vietnamese. Now, Professor Hào says that it's really important to draw out the universals in general linguistics, but this can only be done after carefully examining the specific aspects in languages. Now, before I move on further, what is the Vietnamese equivalent for language universal? Now, can you type that into the chat window? I need you to know the Vietnamese translation and the Vietnamese equivalent of the term in case you need to search on Google for more readings. Okay, several people are complaining about poor sound quality and lagging, so I think I will turn off the webcam for a while. Hopefully you have better connections. Alright, phổ niệm ngôn ngữ, that's a good term. Actually, the most popular translation or equivalent of the term is phổ quát ngôn ngữ. Yeah, ngôn ngữ phổ quát or phổ quát ngôn ngữ. Yeah. Now, in this activity, I want you to go to Google search and try to find out answers for these two questions. What is Eurocentrism in language studies? And what is Professor Cao Xuân Hào known for? Okay, so You have now about 5 minutes, okay, to find out your answers. You can use Google to help if you like. So just type in Eurocentrism in language studies, and then okay, Cao Xuân Hao. All right. When you are ready, I want you to okay type your answer into the chat window. Now let's start. Yes. Okay. If you have found out something, please type the answer into the chat window. Right. So I've got something from Tuyết. Yeah. Professor Hao is a very famous translator. Okay. And we get, look like, a copy and paste from several people. Now please type in your, paraphrasing. I do not want to see, pasting from the internet. All right. So we have several posts here. Eurocentrism is taking Europe at the center of the world in politics, in language, and in science studies. Right. Okay, nice. Yeah. So Professor Hao can speak and write French fluently. Yeah, you should try to read more about his foreign languages, and he's you know a born language learner. Okay, you'll be surprised, but he has been known for translating millions of pages from Russians to Vietnamese, okay, as well as from French to Vietnamese. He also has great command of Chinese and English. Oh yes, he's also a very good pianist. Yeah, he's a very good musician. And Professor House strongly believes that there is a strong connection between language and music. Um, if you know, if you have talents in language, then you can also learn music quite easily. Okay, you might want to look at this web page that okay. That's a very good article about the contributions of Professor Cao Xuân Hao to uh, Vietnamese linguistics and about what he is recognized for. Okay, so thank you everybody for the sharing. Um, so coming back to the two questions on our slide. Um, what is Eurocentrism in language studies? Basically, Eurocentrism is about taking European grammar and linguistic systems as the center of the world and using principles from European um, languages to describe non-European languages like Vietnamese, for example. Um, Now, we have already seen several examples mentioned in those articles that you have read. For example, sentences in Vietnamese like chó treo mèo đẩy, okay, like ông đưa chân giò, bà thò chai rượu. Now, those sentences can't be analyzed using subject and verb structures that we are familiar with. And Professor Hao claimed that um, 70% of sentences in Vietnamese can't be analyzed using the subject and verb formula that we are very familiar with in um, English and in French. So, what is Professor Cao Xuân Hao known for? He is known for being strongly against Eurocentrism in Vietnamese language studies. Okay, so um, let me make this again loud and clear. Professor Cao Xuân Hao is well known for being against Eurocentrism in Vietnamese language studies. Right, and if we goes against Eurocentrism, if we cannot adopt what is already available from European linguistic system, then we need to resort to contrastive analysis for linguistic data to describe and to build up our own structures our own system for describing non-European languages. All right. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So I now turn on my webcam. Hopefully, if you cannot hear me, you can also guess, okay, what is going on. As I have said, the meeting is being recorded and it will be re-uploaded to our system later. So, okay, don't feel frustrated if you cannot catch up, okay, because of your internet connection. Okay, so let me type this into chat. So, Professor Cao Xuân Hao is known for being against Europe's Eurocentrism in Vietnamese language study. Okay, now there are several other interesting contributions that contrastive linguistics make to general linguistics. In the last lecture, we also talked about typological linguistics, and I have already shown you that in order to categorize languages into typology, like isolating languages, like synthetic languages, like agglutinating languages, or fusional languages, we need data from contrastive analysis works. Um, uh, Now, if you are working in language teaching and in translations, then it's very helpful to learn about the lexical gaps, on the gaps that have been identified between languages. Now, lexical gaps basically are concepts that exist in um, in one language but do not exist in another language. For example, in the American continent, there was no horses until okay, the Spanish first came to the continent. So horse, okay, did not exist in American languages, okay, until the Spanish colonizations, and horse is seen as a lexical gap between Spanish and Native American language. Um, Corn and potatoes, okay, in the opposite way, is, you know, unknown in European languages until Westerners brought the seeds of these from American continent. So corn and potatoes are also lexical gaps between these languages, European languages and Native American languages. Now, similarly, in Vietnamese, there are a lot of concepts that do not translate well or can't be translated into uh, the target language that we are working with, that is English. For example, um, words like thóc gạo, thính tấm lúa cơm. Okay, uh, these concepts are very hard to be translated into English, and usually we use generic term for all of these concepts. Rice. However, the you know the mental image that Vietnamese have for each of these terms, okay, will be very different from the mental image of rice that people's people in um, um, English speaking countries have. Right. Now, so all of these uh, lexical gaps are interesting topics for um, contrastive analysis works, and they also view they also reveal a lot of interesting things about the cultural and the cognitive differences uh, between languages. Now, okay, I will stop a little bit and I want you to do a hands-on activities. Now, please, okay, please use Google if you like. Uh, okay, refer to your own language repositories. List some lexical gaps in English and Vietnamese. I mean, okay, try to think of concepts that exist in English but do not exist in Vietnamese, or concepts that exist in Vietnamese but do not exist in English. And I want you to search this interesting questions. How are lexical gaps solved in machine translation? There have been a lot of publications about this that can be interesting to you. Okay, so what are some lexical gaps in English and Vietnamese pair? Okay, somebody is pasting very long text here. Okay, yeah, a lot of example can come from our pronoun systems. The way we address each other are very different. So mày tao, for example, can be seen as lexical gaps because okay, in English we have only you and I, and they are not equivalent. We say mày tao when we are very close to each other and we are not afraid of offending the other people that we are addressing. Okay, yeah, noodles and phở, bún, miến, mì Quảng. Okay, those are also lexical gaps. All right. Color words are also um, very culturally specific. For example, uh, uh, màu tam thể, for example, màu xám cho, for example, màu lông chuột. Now, these are color words that can't be translated, okay, into English, right? Good. Okay. Look like you have quite a lot here. Soup. All right, I agree. So we have sweet soup, sour soup. Okay, but okay, they basically cannot, translate well. Okay, the kinds of soups that we want to describe in Vietnamese. So we have lots of different soups that cannot be translated. Okay, great. Now, if you Google lexical gaps in machine translation, you will see that there have been a lot of publication in both computer science and in linguistic studies about how um, uh, the trouble of lexical gaps can be solved in machine translations. So there are several solutions. Okay, if you look around the article posted on the internet, people try to replace those lexical gaps with what seem to be closest or nearest in meaning. So they replace those gaps with closely related um, word. Or another solution is to train the entirely structure of the sentence, but do not do not train the meaning of the sentence for translation. Um, Now, there's an interesting thing that I want to share to you. Please go to our class whiteboard number 1. Okay. Now, please, everybody, please go to the link that I have just sent in our chat window, wb1.huang.net. Um, this is a very good example of um, lexical gaps in languages. Now, please click on wb1.huang.net. You see a long list of different words that Eskimo people use to refer to snow. So you see, there are different words for different kind of snow. Okay, soft snow, hard snow, drifting snow, snow that can store the memories, snow that forms in large flakes, snow that form in small flakes, snow that falls slowly, snow that falls quick, phonetically. Snow that form in bones. Okay, snow that is pure, snow that is mixed with mud, snow that looks blue in the early morning. Okay, you see there are. Okay, let me try to see by making a list. Okay. All right. So how many words do we see here? Whoop, 100 words. Is that amazing? So it's just similar to the examples of okay, um, rice and gạo, thóc, thính, tấm, okay, in chấu, okay, in Vietnamese. All right. So let me wrap this up. How do we find out about these lexical gaps? How do we know these lexical gaps? We know all these thanks to contrastive linguistic studies. Okay, all of these lexical gaps are brought to us from the analysis of Eskimo language and other languages. Now, um, another areas of study that benefit from contrastive analysis is language transfer. Um, now, um, language transfer is an areas of applied linguistics that study the influence of one language on the acquisition of the other. And in language transfer, the key principles, the key point is that learners of different nationalities gonna have different problems. For example, Vietnamese learners of English will have very different problem with French people learning English, and similarly, Vietnamese learners of Chinese have very different problem with English learners of Chinese. Um, now, generally speaking, when we learn a language that is um, similar in typology, similar in and closer in the language family, it's easier for us to learn. And there are two types of transfer. I remember mentioning these two types of transfer in our last lecture already: positive transfer and negative transfer. Um, Now, positive transfers are the familiarities in vocabulary and language structure that can facilitate, help learners to learn language faster. For example, when we learn as Vietnamese, when we learn Chinese, there are a lot of positive transfer because of the similarities in sounds, in vocabulary, right? I have already given you example last time. For example, we say Hanoi and they say Hứa Nê. We say Saigon, they say Si Cung. Right? We say Saigon Nhật Báo and they say Si Cung Rư Bảo. So my prediction is that in order to translate Đại Lộ Đông Tây into English, you literally translate like Tung Si Ta Lu, right? Now, so those are the positive transfer that we enjoy from learning Chinese. Um, but when we learn English, you can see that we have a lot of negative transfer, okay? Especially in the sound system because of the the differences in both the phonetics and the syntactic structures. Um, we're gonna go back to the problem that Vietnamese learner have in a couple of moments. But sometime in your reading, you may come up with uh, another term called interference. Basically, interference also means negative transfer. Okay, but is it not quite popular? Right. I think we are running out of time, so I just want you to answer the first question for me. Please give me some mistakes that Vietnamese learners of English tend to make due to negative transfer. Now, you can give me plenty of examples from your own language learning experience alone. Okay. Now, so please type into the chat windows for me answer to the first question. List some mistakes that Vietnamese learners of English often make due to negative transfer. Hello, everybody. Are you there? Okay. This is so quiet. Okay. All right. Good. So you are still with me. Now, try to give me example of mistakes that we as Vietnamese often make due to the negative transfer. For example, Vietnamese often drop final sounds when we speak English, right? Yeah, good. When we learn English, we often think in Vietnamese ways. You know what? I have been asked to help a lot of other teachers in our university to translate their articles from Vietnamese into English. And what is very hard for me is to translate Vietnamese sentences that may have 10 or even 15 clauses in English. In English, there are very few sentences that are that long. So these people, when they write in English, they also tend to write very long sentences, like the way that they write in Vietnamese. Okay, yeah. Phương Nha has a good point there. The omission of final consonants, is a very popular problem in pronunciation among students. Um, okay, right. Thank you. So let's go back to um, our slide. Now about language transfer, uh, the behaviorist views or language teaching believe that when you learn a foreign language, your goal is to overcome the differences between your mother tongue and the language that you are learning. And the major cause of errors, according to behaviorism, is the negative influence of your mother tongue. So by analyzing the differences between L1 and L2 mother tongue and touch language, the behaviorist teachers believe that all errors can be predicted. Um, Now, how many of you here have already taken the English teaching methodology course, ELT1? Okay, raise your hands. Okay, go to my mood and raise your hand if you have already. Okay, so I have 3 hands. If you have already taken ELT1, English teaching methodology course 1. Yeah, raise your hands. So I see only 3 hands here. Okay. But in English teaching methodology 1, okay, I can see now 5 or 6 hands, okay, raising up. Thank you. Now in ELT1, we learn about behaviorism, okay, and okay, the influence of behaviorism in language teaching, especially the grammar translation method. Now let me connect it to that topic. In okay, behaviorism, people believe that mistakes that learner make can be eliminated, okay, by stimulus and response. So when the learners make mistakes, the teacher will try to stop right away, and okay, the teacher also spend a great amount of time to um, um, correct the bad behaviors of the learners that come from their mother tongue. Now, this is most obvious in okay, the natural language teaching approach, uh, in which pronunciation mistakes are never tolerated. Okay, so let me come back to this. In order okay, to identify the positive transfer, the negative transfer, and serve okay, the principles of behaviorist teaching, then we need to know the sorts of errors and the kinds of errors that are common. And that's why it's important again to refer back to contrastive analysis. So contrastive linguistic studies help us to analyze errors in language learning and okay, and it's helps a teacher to prevent the mistakes that might transfer from the mother tongue of the students. Now, also referring back to English teaching methodology 1 course, if you have okay, learned about the natural approach, you will see that in the natural approach, learning a second language is seen as very similar, and the process very similar to learning the mother tongue. So the goal of a natural approach teacher is to um is to simulate okay a language environment that is similar to the mother tongue. And so in natural approach, the teachers never use mother tongue. Okay, so okay, if we take the natural approach views, there is no need to learn contrastive linguistics because we do not need to analyze the differences between the two languages. Right. So let's come back to this topic about where errors come from. Now, errors in language learning, okay, if you refer back to your experience as a language learner, come from negative transfer that we have been discussing so far. It can also come from overgeneralizations. Overgeneralization means okay, you overgeneralize the rules. Okay, for example, um, let me copy and paste the example on the chat to the chat window. Now, so you can see okay what I have pasted in the chat window. So we say go to school, okay, and we ask students to repeat this structure. Okay, I go to school every morning. I go to school every day. Now then, students may overgeneralize to say, okay, I go to zoo every day. I go to cinema every day. I go to cinema every weekend, for example. And instead of saying I go to the cinema, yeah, or I go to home, yeah. Thank you for okay, your input, Phương. Um, okay, these are examples of overgeneralizations. Okay, I can get a lot of information because they believe that okay, everything going after a lot of should be in plural. So they say I get a lot of information. Okay, okay, this way gives me natural feelings. Right now, so overgeneralizations okay is also a source of errors. Okay, and okay, a lot of language learners, especially low-level learners, make mistakes because of this. Um, there is another source of error that is called a proximity system. This is an interesting term, and it is useful for you to know about. Okay, because you are language okay learners. Um, now, okay, according to NAMSR, um, we have the mother tongue system at one end, and then we have the target language system at the other end, and these are the two ends of a continuum in language learning. Now, as we learn a language, okay, we are building a system for ourselves that is somewhere between the mother tongue system and the target system. And okay, you know, no matter how hard you try, okay, your system, okay, cannot be 100%, okay, exactly like the native system okay, or the target system. Okay, for example, okay, like us, we have spent 10 years, or for me, like more than 20 years learning English. But okay, the language that I produce, the language that I write, is not 100% similar to okay, a native speaker. Okay, I can only reach a level that is called near native. So um, I also have a system. Okay, my own systems of language, my own system of grammar, my own system of vocabularies that are near to the system of a native speaker's use. So okay, this system is called a proximity system or interlanguage. Now, if you need a Vietnamese translation for the readings, we call this hệ thống tiệm cận. Okay, hệ thống tiệm cận. Now, I want you now to Google a proximity system or interlanguage system a little bit, and I will stop for a while. Okay. It's interesting to learn about this and decide where you are on the language learning continuum. Okay. All right. Okay. So please use Google to help you. Okay, so thank you for the inputs. So interlanguage is a term for linguistic system that we use. Alright, so there are several alternatives. Mm, okay, now. Okay, so thank you for all the input. If you still not clear about these concepts, you want to read further, please refer to the link that I have pasted, okay, in the chat window. Um, so let me, okay, sum this up. Okay, errors in language learning can come from negative transfer, it can come from overgeneralizations, or it can come from a proximity system. Now, and in order to, okay, analyze, okay, these, okay, errors, obviously we need to refer back to comparing language pairs. Now, in the M-learning system, I asked you to discuss questions about the crisis of cognitive linguistics. Um, Now, if we refer back to the history of this field, we know that during the heyday of contrastive linguistics, because I took another subject on cognitive linguistics. During the heyday, the golden age of contrastive linguistics, um, the contrastive linguistic researcher would try to set up, okay, different levels of difficulties, uh, and it was, especially successful with phonetics and grammar, but it fails to do so when you address, okay, things that have more to do with meaning rather than form. And language differences cannot, you know okay um, you know cannot always cause problems for language learners. Actually, sometimes, okay, because of the wide differences between Vietnamese and English, we do not make the kinds of mistakes that, okay, some other European learners of English have. For example, it's easy for us to tell the difference, okay, between several sounds. Um, Now, so let's wrap up by discussing what is, okay, this all about for language teaching. Okay, we've been talking about error analysis, we've been talking about machine translation, we've been talking about language transfer. Now, when we teach languages, foreign languages, we do not need to spend much time, okay, on the important similarities. So for the positive transfer, we can skip, okay, and teach quickly. Um, there are also similarities that is not important, and okay, uh, these similarities do not facilitate language learning. We can also, uh, spend less time on the positive transfer because they are not helpful. Um, but for important differences, especially the kinds of differences that lead to negative transfer, for example, stress, intonation, final sounds, count nouns, non-count nouns, or syntactic structures, these will surely cause problems. Vietnamese learners of English, and we need to give a good attention to. For the differences that are not important and do not lead to negative transfer, we do not need to spend time on. Now, before we start, I want to talk a little bit about error analysis and error diagnosis that you may have read about in the textbooks. Some of you have already, got copies of the textbook already from those that I have given to your class. Now, when we predict errors in language learning, it's important to maintain a balanced viewpoint. Don't try to be extremist. Don't be okay over stating or completely refuting the value of contrastive analysis. It is true that knowing the kinds of errors that our student can make is useful for designing courses, especially for adult learners. But contrastive linguistics is not the all-in-one AIO tool. In language teaching, there are other things that we need to take into account when designing textbook and developing materials. For example, the age of the learners. It also depends on the motivation or the attitudes of the learner, the atmospheres of the classroom, the language environment, whether students are able to get inputs for their learnings or not. And sometimes we can take the natural approach in which we totally ignore the differences between two languages. We do not need to care about contrastive analysis. Okay, I have a questions about A. So AIO to mean contrastive analysis can help in language teaching, but it's not the all-in-one tool, and we do not expect too much from it. Okay, everybody, this is the end of our discussions about the values and the importance of contrastive linguistics. You can read more from the chapters in the textbook that are highlighted in topic 1. So please refer back to our learning system now. There are several things that I need to draw your attention to. Now, so please go back to our learning system. Now, I want to get your feedback about this first online learning session. So, please, after this session, go to topic 3, reflections, and answer the question posted there. Remember, let me say this again. Your midterm evaluation gonna depend on your participation in all of these activities. So basically, when these activities are enabled in the system, you are supposed to join. Okay, I have questions about the course books. I have given the course book to a boy in the class, and I think when we meet again next week, you will see a course book going around that you can make copies from. Now, I will now put our meeting in discussion mode. Hold on. Question. Now, do you have any questions or comments about our discussion today? You can unmute yourself now. We are now in discussion mode. You can unmute yourself and speak to the microphone. Now, do you have any questions, everybody? Um, you will see the link of our meetings, okay, re-uploaded to the system hopefully this afternoon. So, okay, don't worry too much if you cannot catch up some points. Now, if you do not have any questions, then please go back to our learning system. I do not see many of you finish the video presentation yet. Now, so in your video presentation about your favorite linguist, okay, let me see how things going. Well, the deadline of the oral presentation is our meeting next week. I have a questions about whether we have a meeting like this next week. I'm not sure. I will let you know in our next meeting. Okay. I'm not sure that I will be available. Okay, next Sunday. If you do not have a webcam to film your presentation, then just borrow the laptop of somebody else. It should take you only 5 minutes. Okay, so let's sum up. We have discussed the values of learning contrastive linguistics today, and through the lectures you learn more about linguistics, you learn more about language teaching, you learn more about the value of the essay, the research that you are going to do at the end of the course. After this meeting, I want you to do reflection. In topic 3, do the video presentations. And you need to do the other activities, but those are the 2 activities that I look forward to most. Yeah, please do topic 3 reflection right now, or within today. Otherwise, you forget everything that you have already done. Alright, everybody, now it's nearly 11:30 and it's time for us to say goodbye. I would like to say a big thank you for your active participation, and I hope that you enjoy our online meeting. I look forward to reading your feedbacks in topic 3 reflections. So, goodbye, enjoy your lunch, and have a great Sunday. See you again next Tuesday. Bye bye. Bye bye.